Hello and welcome to True Crime Diaries. I'm Emre, and before we dive into today's story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our future stories. Today's story is about one of the most notorious serial killers in American history, Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. This chilling saga spans over 2 decades and involves a game of cat and mouse that baffled investigators and left a haunting shadow over the state of Washington. In the shadowy depths of early 1980s Washington, a sinister narrative was beginning to unfold along the banks of the Green River. A scene likely picturesque during the day became increasingly haunting as the nights grew longer in the spring of 1982. The serenity was disrupted by an unsettling discovery when a body surfaced, eerily cradled by the gentle current. This was not an isolated event. One by one, a grim pattern materialized. More bodies were found, each telling a story of terror and loss. The realization was as chilling as the waters themselves. A serial killer was preying upon the vulnerable. The unease in the air was palpable as the police launched an investigation. Who was this phantom specter, lurking in the periphery of civilization, striking terror into the hearts of the public? The question echoed without answer as fear gripped the community. The victims were predominantly young women, many of whom society had overlooked runaways and sex workers. Their stories, often forgotten, were now irrevocably entwined with this unfolding nightmare. The police were on high alert, but with little to go on, the trail was cold before it had truly begun. Amidst this backdrop of dread, a man named Gary Ridgway walked unnoticed through the chaos. By all appearances, Ridgway was the epitome of unremarkable, a seemingly ordinary man living an unremarkable life. He held a steady job, was polite, and maintained relationships that painted him as just another face in the crowd. Yet beneath this facade lay a duplicitous existence, veiled in malevolence. It was a duality so striking that it almost defied belief. How was it possible that a man capable of such horrific acts could exist so seamlessly within society's fabric? The mystery deepened as investigators grappled in the dark, aware that with each passing moment, the killer could be slipping further from reach. Ridgway's ability to elude capture was as confounding as it was infuriating, his normalcy providing the perfect camouflage. While authorities tirelessly pursued every lead, Ridgway blended into his surroundings like a phantom, his true nature shielded by the very normalcy that defined him. As whispers spread and fear escalated, the community was left with an unsettling question. Was the man responsible for these atrocities someone they passed on the street, or perhaps even someone they knew? This chilling uncertainty only added layers to the enigma authorities were desperate to unravel. Thus, the stage was set for a long and arduous hunt for one of the most prolific and elusive serial killers in American history. The investigation would require not just patience and perseverance, but an ability to peer into the abyss of darkness that Ridgway masked with his outward banality. It was a puzzle of almost insurmountable complexity, a killer hiding in plain sight, driven by impulses that the average person could scarcely comprehend. The community and law enforcement braced themselves as they embarked on a quest to bring justice for the women whose lives were so callously taken. The discovery of the first few bodies was like a grim curtain rising on a horror show that no one had bought tickets for. With each new victim uncovered along the banks of the Green River, a sinister mystery deepened. This wasn't just a case. It was the birth of a nightmare that would haunt the Pacific Northwest for years to come. The local law enforcement knew they were dealing with a cunning adversary, and thus formed the Green River Task Force. It was a team assembled with one daunting mission: to hunt a phantom, the Green River Killer. The task force quickly found itself surrounded by obstacles as vast and overwhelming as the jagged terrain they scoured day and night. The area along the Green River, with its sprawling, densely wooded cover, seemed to conspire against the investigators at every turn. It was a landscape that was as unforgiving as it was uncharted, the perfect canvas for a killer to paint his macabre masterpiece and then vanish into the shadows. In the early 1980s, forensic technology was in its adolescent years, limited, struggling to catch up with the brutal inventiveness of human crime. There were no DNA databases, and sophisticated profiling was still in its infancy. The most advanced tools they had at their disposal were rudimentary at best, like trying to solve a 1,000-piece puzzle with just a handful of corner pieces. Each lead, no matter how faint, was painstakingly followed, only to leave detectives at a crossroads of dead ends and unsolved riddles. Then there was the daunting list of potential suspects, a who's who of troubled souls and shady pasts. With descriptions that were sometimes little more than shadows cast by fog, anyone and everyone became both a lead and a distraction. The killer's ability to blend in, to live among them unnoticed, was chillingly effective. It was almost as if he wore his invisibility like a second skin. Despite their determination, the task force was besieged by frustration. Hundreds of files from the dozens of victims cluttered their desks, each one representing a life cut short and a family left in anguish. These weren't just numbers. They were daughters, sisters, and mothers. As the task force sifted through endless papers and interviews, the pile of unsolved case files seemed to grow at a faster rate than their list of concrete suspects. And yet, amid the chaos and the clamor, one haunting question loomed over the efforts of the investigators. How did Gary Ridgway, the man ultimately identified as the Green River Killer, manage to slip through their fingers time and time again? It was a chilling game of cat and mouse, where the cat seemed forever one step behind, and the mouse was always sprinting into the dark. Could it be that Ridgway's ordinary appearance was the perfect disguise? Did he somehow anticipate each move, skillfully navigating the labyrinth of investigation with a sinister sixth sense? As each year passed, the press hounded the task force for answers while the public's fear and fascination grew. The truth was a terrifying puzzle, with Ridgway himself as the missing piece hiding in plain sight. In the tranquil suburban neighborhoods of the Pacific Northwest lived a man who appeared as ordinary as any neighbor. His name was Gary Ridgway, a face that blended seamlessly into the fabric of everyday life, almost as if designed to elude scrutiny. His polite demeanor and unwavering routine were his protective camouflage, a facade perfected over years to seamlessly cloak the monstrous double life simmering beneath the surface. To his neighbors, Ridgway was nothing out of the ordinary. He held a steady job as a truck painter, a diligent worker known to punch the clock day in and day out without complaint. His home life, at least on the surface, was equally average. He was a family man, the kind who waved amicably in the mornings and returned to an unassuming household each evening. As far as his community knew, Ridgway's life was as beige and unadventurous as could be. But beneath this unremarkable exterior lay a sinister truth. Ridgway's personification of normalcy was not just a coincidence. It was his most potent weapon in evading justice for so many years. He was expertly adept at compartmentalization, a psychological mastery that allowed him to pursue the darkest of impulses without ever raising an eyebrow of suspicion. It was as if there were two separate Gary Ridgways, one who meticulously blended into social norms, and another who prowled the shadows, driven by grotesque compulsions. The secret to his cunning was in the extraordinary lengths he went to remain ordinary. He was not the archetype of a brooding, reclusive villain. Instead, his life was woven with feigned humanity as he cultivated an image that lulled any watchful eyes into complacency. What struck fear into the hearts of communities was precisely this deceptive banality. Within Ridgway, there resided a chilling dichotomy, bridging the serene with the sinister in a manner that defied logic and understanding. Speculation arises. How could someone shuffle so flawlessly between these parallel lives, undetected? Was it his intense resolve? Or perhaps a disturbingly inherent ability to seal off each persona from the other? This seamless division lay at the heart of his prolonged evasion. It convinced even the most diligent minds in law enforcement that the Green River Killer resided far from the mundane venues they needn't worry about. In essence, Ridgway's brilliance lay not in his intelligence, but in his terrifying ordinariness. In this alignment of two separate worlds within one man's life lies the enigma that remains baffling to the present day. The dual existence enabled him to weave a web of crimes under a mask of misleading innocence. His greatest trick was convincing the world that he did not exist. And so, for decades, the mystery deepened, nestled safely behind life's most reassuring illusions. During the late 1980s and into the tumultuous 90s, the tranquil communities around the Green River were enveloped in a chilling saga. Each new missing person case weaved itself into an already complex tapestry of clues that investigators struggled to untangle. It seemed as if each lead brought the authorities closer to uncovering the true identity of the Green River Killer, but just as they reached out to grasp the truth, it would slip through their fingers like smoke. Gary Ridgway, the man who would later be revealed as the embodiment of this haunting figure, moved through the years cloaked in obscurity, his actions orchestrated to evade capture with unsettling precision. The meticulousness of Ridgway's double life left detectives grappling with endless questions and scarce answers, fueling not only public paranoia, but a relentless pressure on law enforcement. At a time when forensic science was still burgeoning and databases were yet to be seamlessly interconnected, every tip had the potential to unravel the killer's identity. Yet Ridgway cunningly manipulated the system's blind spots, adjusting his methods as law enforcement progressed, like a ghost perpetually outpacing its own shadow. What lay at the heart of Ridgway's uncanny ability to evade capture? Were investigators ensnared by the very familiarity of his ordinary demeanor, rendering them unable to envision him lurking behind such heinous acts? The gaps in perception, could they have been mere oversights? Or were they manifestations of a deeper, more sinister strategic genius? Each missed opportunity became a lesson inked painfully into the annals of investigative history. As technology evolved, providing new tools and tactics, the questions morphed. Were law enforcement agencies too tethered to the procedural methodologies of the past to foresee the horizon on which Ridgway operated? It compels consideration. In the ever-evolving chess match between lawbreakers and those sworn to uphold justice, how many Gary Ridgways slipped past the net due to unassuming, calculated normalcy? This relentless pursuit not only sought justice for the victims, but also forced law enforcement to confront its limitations and adapt. The elusive search for the Green River Killer ignited discussions that reshaped modern criminal investigation techniques, an everlasting testament to the complex interplay of strategy and fate. Yet, with each step forward, new speculations arise. Does the quest to unravel the psychological and operational nuances of such criminals demand a different kind of profiler, one who dares to think like those they pursue? These lingering questions continue to challenge how investigations are conducted in the present day, shadowing the relentless dedication of those who pursue justice for the forgotten. As we delve deeper into this enthralling tale, the story of how one man evaded capture for decades reveals itself as not just a narrative of crime, but a mirror reflecting the vulnerabilities within us all. In the shadowy world of unsolved crimes, the 1980s in Washington state were gripped by fear and the unrelenting terror of the Green River Killer, or Trutuard. For nearly 2 decades, the identity of this elusive predator remained a mystery, baffling seasoned detectives and compelling the media to speculate endlessly. The killer was always one step ahead, a ghostly figure who continually evaded capture as he claimed victim after victim. But in 2001, a moment came that shifted the balance in favor of justice. This watershed moment was not the product of a sudden confession or eyewitness revelation. Instead, it emerged from the quiet, methodical advancements within forensic science, a triumph of technology over terror. Picture this: the cold, sterile laboratory, where a team of forensic scientists, armed with cutting-edge DNA profiling techniques, meticulously re-examine evidence collected years prior. At this time, DNA analysis had become more refined, instrumental in breathing new life into stagnant cases. Blood samples, hair strands, and other critical pieces of biological evidence, long stored away, were meticulously retested. In this silent war room, with only the hum of computers and the laser focus of specialists, secrets held within those samples began to unravel right before their eyes. The excitement in the lab was palpable. This was more than just a routine task, it was a mission to catch a phantom. As the sensitive equipment hummed to life, producing telltale genetic signatures, the numbers began to align. What unfolded here was groundbreaking. Samples from multiple victims, scattered across a timeline of terror, were undeniably linked to one individual, Gary Ridgway. The collective intake of breath was almost audible, a quiet acknowledgement of the curtains being drawn back on a decades-long mystery. The impact was instantaneous. Authorities, armed with this powerful new evidence, could finally close in on the man who had eluded them for so long. It wasn't just the resolve of the detectives that provided the edge, but the precision of technology that served as a crucial ally. This arrest was evidence of how far forensic science had come, and offered a glimpse into its transformative potential. It invited a pressing question into the conversation about cold cases. If DNA could breathe life into this seemingly forgotten file, what other secrets remained, lying dormant in unsolved cases across the nation? How many other stories awaited this breakthrough moment? As the role of DNA in solving such heinous crimes became undeniable, it stoked a fervor of curiosity and possibility within law enforcement worldwide. What could this advancement uncover next? Where else could the microscopic threads of DNA, invisible to the naked eye, lead investigators? Ahead loomed the tantalizing possibility that no killer could remain hidden forever, vastly changing the landscape of criminal resolutions and breathing hope into the endless pursuit of justice. In the chilling depths of 2003, the nation stood still as Gary Ridgway, the man who had eluded capture for decades, faced justice in what was arguably one of the most infamous cases in American history. Ridgway accepted a plea deal, a legal maneuver that often stirs mixed emotions, but, in this instance, seemed the only path to closure for many. He confessed to the unimaginable, the cold-blooded murders of 48 women, sparing himself the death penalty, but ensuring life imprisonment. As courtrooms echoed with his admissions, a grim silence settled over families and onlookers alike, for his revelations unspooled the tales of lives brutally ended and dreams ruthlessly shattered. The families of Ridgway's victims, having long endured the anguish of not knowing what happened to their loved ones, were finally offered a semblance of closure. Yet, this closure came at a heavy price. The harrowing details Ridgway provided were both shocking and deeply painful. Each confession painted a sordid picture, turning the pages back to moments of fear and brutality that had permeated the lives of so many innocent women. The impact of his words was profound, reverberating through the hearts of the families, the community, and the nation at large. But what pushed Ridgway, after all these years, to admit to his heinous crimes? Was it the weight of guilt finally catching up with him, or simply another strategic maneuver to dodge the gallows? The reasons behind his confession remain shrouded in speculation. Some believe that Ridgway, devoid of any remorse, simply saw this as an inevitable step to avoid a higher penalty, while others speculate on the possibility of further undiscovered victims, leaving us pondering just how vast the shadows of his crimes might truly spread. The confession and resultant sentencing raised gripping questions. Could there be more unknown victims, women whose disappearances went unnoticed, their stories untold? Each new admission suggested the chilling possibility of more families left without answers, more heartache buried beneath layers of legal proceedings. As the justice system grappled with the overwhelming scope of Ridgway's crimes, the case indelibly marked legal practices, propelling changes in laws and policies related to plea bargains for serial killers. It forced the system to reconsider how best to serve justice in cases where the scale of human suffering defies comprehension. As Ridgway was led away, sentenced to spend the remainder of his life behind bars, one lingering question remained. How many more secrets did this seemingly ordinary man harbor, and what other dark truths lay hidden beneath his calculated exterior? The saga of the Green River Killer unravels a tale shrouded in chilling suspense, offering more than an unsettling chronicle of crime. It's a deeply woven narrative that showcases the shifting sands of investigative work and the intricate labyrinth of human psychology. As we cast our gaze back towards this grim epoch, we find ourselves traversing a landscape filled with lessons etched in the shadows cast by each victim. It is within these echoes of the past that we draw parallels with the relentless pursuit of justice today. Picture the 1980s, a period caught in the grips of fear as the bodies multiplied near the Green River, their secrets tightly locked away by the clandestine hand of the killer. Law enforcement was pitted against time, armed with tools now seen as relics. A tantalizing challenge lay before them: solve a puzzle with missing pieces. The evolution of investigative methods over the years has been nothing short of revolutionary. In those early days, detectives relied heavily on their intuition and limited forensic technology, often finding themselves entangled in a web of dead ends and false leads. But the story did not stand still. It transformed as advancements in DNA analysis became the beacon of hope, illuminating paths previously obscured by darkness. It's a testament to the relentless pursuit of innovation, as crime-solving leaped from instinct-driven conjecture to science-backed certainty. Yet, there's an underlying narrative to this evolution, a narrative that hinges on the intricate dance of understanding the complexities of human behavior. Each victim was a piece of the puzzle, carrying within them stories of vulnerability and courage in their final moments. The Green River Killer exploited these vulnerabilities, leaving a trail that only those who dared to delve deeper into the psyche could follow. Looking back, the reflections in that murky river of history reveal a formidable progression. Law enforcement has learned to forge alliances, to communicate across jurisdictions, and to never underestimate the hitherto unseen. Yet, Gary Ridgway's prolonged evasion of capture reminds us of the chasm between intent and action, where justice hangs in a delicate balance. This chapter beckons us to consider the implications for today and beyond. How do we continue to hone our methods? How do we ensure that victims are not mere names on a page but individuals whose stories are crucial to our collective understanding? The legacy of the Green River Killer is a clarion call, urging society to remain ever vigilant, to learn, to adapt, and to honor the lives entwined in its history. In the sanctum of reflection and inquiry, we find the resolve to channel past lessons into future prevention, embodying a timeless quest to curtail monstrosity with justice. As the Green River winds through time, its legacy offers us glimpses, not just of darkness, but of a dawning light seeking to illuminate paths untraveled. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more true crime stories. Your support helps us to continue bringing you the deepest dives into the most chilling tales from the world of crime. Until next time on True Crime Diaries, take care and stay vigilant.